Hello everyone, I am Tacit, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War event objectives for Lost in the Woods event, in which the Natureborn Hunter is added to the game. So this week is rather interesting, as this is the very first Nexus event that we had since the original Nexus. So this is the first one we've ever had where you could basically get absolutely everything compared to the first few, because the first few had happened during the Kingdom Pass, so a lot of things you weren't able to get, like the Legend, a couple of those weapons, stuff like that, were kind of like mini paywalled that you could get later, and now is that later time. So if you're free to play, a lot of things in Nexus basically just released today that you'll easily be able to get. So let's start off by going into a couple of those. So as far as the, let's go over event keys first. So as far as event keys are concerned, every single thing that you see here is from Nexus ordered on base rarity here. Every single thing you see here is obtainable except for the Lovers, which is obtained through vault keys, and the 4 Umbral Nexus troops, which are from the Umbral Nexus faction. Everything else you see here is indeed in the event key drop table, and absolutely everything is obtainable here. Aside from that, King Haildor is one of those ones that was kind of blocked before. You've probably already gotten some copies. However, if you're playing 100% free to play, even though it is possible to have gotten it from random drops, there's a good chance you haven't gotten a max and stuff like that, so you'll be able to do so now. One other one that is pretty nice is with the Soulforge. All these weapons that were originally money locked, for example, things like Crystar Scythe and Natura Star, are now available, so you can now end up getting them in the Soulforge, though there are better options like Oshia's Tome, which is absolutely insane and highly advised getting, but we'll get over to that once we head to that section. But yeah, we're going to be getting a new kingdom soon, probably in about 2 Mondays from now, assuming it releases on time. We're probably getting a patch today or next Tuesday, and then we'll be getting a new kingdom supposedly like 2 Mondays from now or so. So yeah, we'll have another new Nexus. It's actually going to be a construct kingdom. Aside from that, one other thing to mention real quick before we get into the normal things is that new Vault Troop. So if you want to go get a Chariot that is in Vault Keys, do keep in mind a chance of getting that is exceedingly rare, and I would wait until you need at least multiple different ones before trying to go for it. But if you did end up missing out on it, it is in the Vault Key drop table now. Anyways, let's go and get over to the troop. So this thing's not useless. Comes in a bunch of green-blue arcanes, which are a pretty useful one at only 200 glory each, so great time to stock up. As far as the troop, it is exceedingly situational, but not useless. It's a 12 mana cost green-blue, competing with quite a few other looping green-blues, most notably Truffle and Beatrix. But it creates 1 elemental star, which isn't a lot. However, it also does +1 for every 3 green allies and +1 for every 3 green gems. So we can end up getting a decent amount. Normally probably going to average around a 4, I would say, maybe 5. As far as how many gems will end up creating. However, the main thing that makes this viable, because if that was all we did, like create 4-ish or 5-ish elemental stars, that'd be kind of average and not really worth using. However, there's a caveat to that makes it better. If the enemy has a beast, it'll gain an extra turn. This is super situational on if the enemy will actually have a beast or not. However, this current world event is all beast, so if nothing else, you can use it for this current world event. It's going to be pretty situational going forward, as your enemy team basically requires having a beast on it in order to function. However, it is definitely a solid option when the enemy has a beast, so you can maybe put into your Guild War team if the enemy team happens to be running a beast and other similar things like that. Overall, it's pretty much never going to be used, but it is going to be extremely niche and somewhat usable when it is. It's just unlike things like, let's say, Night Spider, where you could build a pure rogue team and then you're good to go. You can't really build a team necessarily around this, as it's very required on the enemy having at least 1 beast. I guess you could technically try to lycanthropy them and get them into a beast and try doing it that way. However, that requires a lot of steps and might not be too viable just to get this troop working compared to using some other option that can already do it more efficiently. However, there are ways to kind of activate him like that. So he's not completely useless. It's just so it's a good troop. It's just so ridiculously situational when you can actually use it into a team. Aside from that, he does have some decent score reduction, and he gets to create a gem at the start of every single one of his turns, specifically the green variety, as pretty much everything from Nexus does at the start of their turn. Anyways, we already went over event key drop table. Overall, nothing too good, but Nexus, good time to go get all the Nexus stuff if you weren't already able to in the past. So good time to do that. As far as the world event, pretty straightforward. It's actually rarity order. There's technically one that's outside of rarity order. Is this one right here is actually worth slightly less. However, you're forced to have to take it. As you can see here, there's no other option, so we have to take it. However, it's essentially just rarity order, even though this one particular room is technically slightly less, but you're forced to take it, so you don't really have a choice. So yeah, just do rarity order and you'll be perfectly fine for doing this current world event. Has a bunch of extra magic, so that's nice. As far as teams, it is restricted to only Nexus, which does not leave us with much. Nexus, of course, does not have a particularly high amount of options. I believe it is the lowest number of troops of any kingdom, obviously, because it's the newest possible one. However, you can end up getting things like Oshia's Tome and the Soulforge, which is a pretty decent option to end up using. So you can end up going down that route in order to mana accumulate. But there's also some damage options. For example, if you got this from the faction, this is not something you can get in Soulforge this week. However, oh, actually, yes, you can today. You actually can specifically today because we have a faction event for it. So yeah, never mind. Do make sure to get it today though, because you can only get it today because it's only available through the faction. But deals a bunch of damage to all enemies, boosted by Umbral stars. But yeah, if you want to have like an AoE option, make sure to get it today, as this is actually the only day this week you'll be able to get it, either through the faction event or through the Soulforge, only today. Anyways, with that being said, we do of course have a faction event associated to it. That one location I was just talking about is right here. This is the only day you can end up getting it, either here or through Soulforge. It's 410 gems if you want it here. Otherwise, it's however much it costs in Soulforge. So you can get it either or, but it's only available today. It's an okay weapon, but it might be usable for some things this week, particularly the World event. It's a yellow-purple restriction, so we can end up running pretty standard stuff like Leprechaun Thrall. We have access to Guard's Avatar, Cirqua and Hadley. You have access to Zugoff Iron Gut, so quite a few very strong options at our disposal. For this Wednesday, also this Tuesday, we might be getting a patch, which is today. We might be getting that patch. If that patch does come, it's probably coming in, actually by the time this video comes out, probably in a couple hours. So pretty soon, TM. Anyways, aside from that, hope all of you guys had a wonderful Independence Day yesterday. I definitely did. But so I kind of celebrated both on Saturday and yesterday. However, we also are getting the pet for that tomorrow. So if you want to pick that up, it's cosmetic. It's a Lady Liberty kind of remedition. So if you want to get that, that is available tomorrow. Thursday, we have Elemental Hero class, and I hope to get a video out on the tier list that I meant to cover like 2 months ago. Still have it all done. But however, do need to go record that and everything. But as you guys know, Elementalist is like pretty much definitively like the strongest hero class in the game. Doesn't have a natural half mana start though, which is a bit of a downside. However, aside from that, everything else is just pure upside, particularly its final trait combined with like immune to stun and everything. But yeah, it is a pretty devastating hero class. So we'll cover a tier list for the first introduction of this, because this is the first time you've been able to have a Elementalist class event if you want to go max it since its inception like 6-7 months ago. So good time to go to that if you don't already have it max. I'm pretty sure a lot of you probably already have it max, but if not, good time to get a little more XP on it, if nothing else. And this Friday, we just have an arena event, pretty dull, useless event. They still haven't buffed. Who knows? Maybe next patch will address it. Highly doubt it. Anyways, as far as Soulforge is concerned, nothing too good in the troop category. Mother of Darkness is probably the most viable option here. Mother of Darkness is pretty much only used for one really exceedingly specific team, in which case it actually is insanely good, and that is the Night Spider team. Using it in a pure rogue team with Night Spider, that is pretty much the whole purpose of Mother of Darkness, and she's technically the best bleeder in the game. That's a very situational mechanic, though it can do up to 10 true damage to all enemies per turn. Aside from that, I'm personally not a fan of it, but Baskia does have that multi-devour of like the multi-devour related like mythics. It is among one of the better ones, so if you want to end up using it for its unique attributes, it can be okay. Though if you're going to go for anything, I'd probably just go for Night Spider into Mother of Darkness, or even just skip. There is Megavore. Megavore is so absurdly situational in the current state of the game. He does have Impervious into a very small chance for insta-kill on the extra turn, though the main thing that it tends to get used for is eliminating all the enemy's armor. It is still, to this day if I'm not mistaken, the only thing that actually has armor tier to all enemies, while having this damage poke that almost can actually one-shot because it has double ratio based on its magic. So you'll get like an almost one-shot or literally a one-shot while also armor tiering. Ends up working well with quite a few things, like Ubista ends up working pretty well with anything that's really like physical-based and just wants to get the armor out of the way. Also works good if you're building a really weird RNG team and you want to have like Assassin to sing and like a few other options and just RNG roll a billion different insta-kills and hope you get lucky. Quite a few funny things it could end up doing, though very rarely actually used, despite its potential viability. And of course, lastly here we have Natureborn Star. I will go craft this. This originally was $10 money locked and then $5 money locked, and now you can end up... Actually, let me go over a few weapons here. So, yes, this was originally $10 money locked, $5 money locked, and now it is free. We can simply click this button, and then boom, we got it for free. Or, you know, in-game resources. But it's pretty cheap. There's basically 0 resources. Anyways, Crystar Scythe. This one was originally in the $7-8 pass thingy that they're probably doing again in like 2 weeks. So, you know, we'll have that whole thing again, and the faction, or, you know, the Kingdom event probably won't roll around to like February, March of next year, even though we're going to get the kingdom this month, most likely. Kind of like how Nexus came out in November/December, but we didn't have the event until summer, as I mentioned back then, and that's exactly what happened. But yeah, this was originally in the past, but now you can get it for free through those in-game resources. And Oshia's Tome, I actually do not recall off the top of my head how this one came out. However, it is by far the strongest weapon in this place, and I do advise getting it. So now is definitely time. It ends up exploding a bunch of... Oh, I think it came out through like a Friday event. Anyways, it explodes a bunch of gems for each blue ally and each elemental ally. Yeah, I think it came out through an elemental invasion. That would make sense. But yeah, this weapon's really, really insanely good. Has the most explosions pretty much of any hero weapon. Insanely good mana accumulator. One thing that's actually so strong about it is you don't even have to use it with blues or elemental because it stacks on itself, so it's already getting at least those explodes. And if you're using elemental hero class, well, you're already getting enough explodes to do a competent level without having a single other blue or elemental on your team. And generally, you're going to have at least one or two others, so it gets a really solid amount of explosions without having to really make your team like all-in elemental. You can go all-in elemental, but you don't need to go all-in elemental in order to use that book properly. There's also one other one, which is actually a really unfortunate one, though it was obviously going to happen to one of them. If I'm not mistaken, there is a $5 weapon. What's actually kind of weird about this one is I believe Tide's Lash was the one you got for free on the free side of the pass. However, it is indeed the $5 weapon, so boo. Unfortunately, every kingdom does have one, and this was technically free back then. However, it was the one that got designated towards it. Luckily, it is basically useless. Actually, was this one the money locked one, or was this... I actually don't remember now. I'm pretty sure this was on the free side. Yeah, I was almost guaranteed that this one was on the free side, because the thing that they do with these $5 weapons, there's always one per kingdom, but all of these have been available for free at least once. And then they start charging money for it. And this, I believe, was for if you did all 50 tiers of the pass thingy. So that means if anything is going to be similar to the next Kingdom event, when we have the new Kingdom in a couple weeks, assuming it still comes out on time, which is going to be based around gargoyle gems and everything, when that does end up coming around, you're going to want to make sure you definitely complete out the free side, even if you're not buying the pass, as this weapon will likely be money locked later. So definitely make sure if you're a free-to-play player to end up getting that through the pass thingy on the free side of it. Anyways, was that all the things? Then we'll go into teams. I believe I have mentioned all the things I want to mention. So let's go into all the teams now. So there are several for this week, all of which will be in the description below if you want to go and copy and paste any of them. First off, we have ourselves a Ward event one, using Oshia's Tome as our main mana accumulating option. We have a lot of elementals and blues on our team, so we're going to get a lot of explodes. This thing's here because every single enemy that you're going to be facing is actually a beast related when you're doing the event, so you're always going to be able to get his extra turn into a bunch of mana accumulation. We're using the Mythic of Calica as it's the best way to pressure damage within this kingdom, aside from using the AoE book. And we're using King Hildor just kind of as a finisher poke, and he ends up then creating some elemental stars that can also end up helping you. So that's pretty much the team there. As far as the lower end of the team, we're mostly basing around Umbral Tome. Keep in mind you can only get Umbral Tome today, so if you haven't already, definitely make sure to do so. Otherwise, you might have to wait quite some time before you can end up getting it again. However, it's a pretty average weapon. It's just kind of a standard AoE. However, it's very useful for this current Ward event, as there aren't really any other ways to really pressure that much damage off a hero other than this weapon, at least not efficiently anyways. So it deals damage to all enemies, boosted by Umbral Stars. Generally, you're not going to have any Umbral Stars on your board. Those are the other ones that are specifically from the factions, not to be confused with Elemental Stars, as they are something completely different and do not count towards the boost ratio. However, you're mostly doing it for its base value AoE, and you're just kind of doing with the Hildors in order to pressure damage, and we're just using the Natureborn Hunter in order to mana accumulate once again. You could even double up on that if you only have one King Hildor as well. Aside from that, we have a faction event for yellow purple today. So as far as what we could do here, we could do pretty standard guards, Avatar, Iroquois, and Hadley. You could do either Leprechaun, Thrall, stuff like that. You could even do Harpy Mage if you want to go down that route, though it's a little bit quicker running Leprechaun when you have access to it. And here we have a pretty standard High King Iron Good Zugov team, just using Thrall as the mana accumulator, and Leprechaun for that initial burst of mana. For a pure faction, there are a couple ways to do this. 4 Void Wisp is a pretty funny one you could do. You could do 3 Void Wisp with one other troop, which is what this team ends up building around. So here we have a bunch of Stealthy, so the Void Wisp will end up surviving. We have a backup backup summon in case they die to skull up front, and he ends up creating a bunch of Umbral stars, which gives a bunch of yellow-purple mana, which is very convenient. He also ends up giving us a Umbral Storm, which will give us more of those yellow-purple gems that will help feed us mana towards our Void Wisps. And basically, you just keep life-stealing with the Void Wisp. It has a little bit of mana drain so that you can keep lowering them down, and you basically just win off a Void Wisp alone. You could even, as I mentioned, run 4 Void Wisp, and you're going to be perfectly fine. This one just happens to run one little legend there, just to give us a little bit more mana support in trying to find the stars that we actually need to get some mana flowing, and also have just one more color coverage. And aside from that, we have Elementalist class this Thursday. Elementalist class, really insanely good class, which is kind of funny because I'm not actually using it here. Biggest downside of it is it does not have half mana start naturally, though it's really easy to put it into a Mirage Queen team. It's just sometimes you're under a restriction like this where you cannot put it with a Mirage Queen team. This basically uses Dawnbringer into a bunch of yellow troops, so you get the boost ratio from it. One nice thing about this is it also creates a bunch of yellow gems. If you don't have Dawnbringer, you can do the same premise with Black Manacle and simply do something that creates brown or purple at the start of their turn to feed into Black Manacle, and just do that with like Archmagus, and you know, similar premise. This is the Dawnbringer variant, which should be a little bit quicker, which is why we're showing this one. But that's all you really have to do for the event. Kill them out, get your free gems, and your free little bit of EXP. And this Friday, we just have a useless arena event. But hopefully today, we will get the, what should be 6.4, unless they're doing a 6.35 patch. But yeah, it's either going to be this Tuesday or next Tuesday, almost guaranteed. So fingers crossed it'll be today. If so, of course, we'll be going over it tonight, as we do every single night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If the patch isn't hitting, well, you know, let's be messing with the faction event and going from there. Anyways, guys, if you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to get around to all of them. Thank you so much for watching, as always, and I hope you all had a wonderful holiday the other day. We'll catch you guys later. Goodbye, everyone, and thanks for watching.